Hi friends, this is Ray Lutz with Citizens Oversight, and today this video is a bit of a challenge to the recent video by SHIVA Ayyadurai, apparently someone who graduated from MIT and has some credibility, but I think just is making some simple mistakes in their analysis. This analysis was regarding the results in the Michigan general election that we were just going through. And the claim being made in that video is that there was a basis for suspecting that perhaps there was fraction magic or other kind of manipulation. And let me preface this by saying that I don't disbelieve the idea that perhaps manipulation could occur in some elections. I don't disbelieve that a lot of the points that they were making in their video about how we can do better with controlling and observing and auditing our elections. I've been in election and interested in elections for over 15 years and a bit of an expert in the topic area now. We have been overseeing many elections, and I also have a degree in electronics and electrical engineering, master's degree. So I am a bit of a nerd alert. So if you want to, hopefully if you're watching this, get prepared, because I'm not going to be shy about talking about numbers and how things are calculated. But if you like that sort of thing, then you'll probably like this video. So first of all, let's take a look at their, really the crux of their argument, which is that they're seeing this deviation, so we're putting it, from the overall straight party score. Let me cover a couple of things first on this before we go on. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'm going to go over a couple of concepts and make sure you understand. So in Michigan and some other states, but in Michigan they have this practice called straight party line voting. And with straight party line voting, at the very top of the ballot, you can select one of the options that says straight party. You pick the party that you want to vote with, and then it will conceive of, in essence, fill in everything else that that party has endorsed, that they have a right to fill in. It doesn't fill in nonpartisan races like maybe water board and other things that are local. So measures that are not partisan. So you would have to still, look down the ballot and vote for other things if you did use that. But if you didn't quite know maybe what one of the measures was, you could skip it. It would be filled in. If you vote straight party line, you can still vote for the items below. So those would override the party, selection in those cases. It tends to be that when I was looking at it, a lot of times people would vote straight party and then just fill in a few things. So it isn't the case that you can just add up the number of straight party line voters and the number of non-straight party votes and figure out that that's the total for the election, because you can designate straight party and vote for the candidate either way in a contest. So you'd have to actually know if that is marked and this was marked if you wanted to try to add those up. So that is the first thing to understand before we get into this. What they're doing essentially in this analysis that they've got, we take a look at the slide, and I think this is the crux of their argument. They're taking a look at, here you're seeing an example. Now this example that they're giving is a hypothetical example. It's a contrived example, because you would not have a precinct with exactly 2,000 voters and equally split between 1,000 straight party voters that voted with the straight party designation and then 1,000 individual candidate voters that decided to vote individually. All right, so this would not actually happen, but for ease of calculations and explaining it, this is why they use this. So in this case, what they're saying is that, and taking a look at this part here, 1,000 straight party voters means you're looking at the relationship between those who designated the Republican and the Democratic parties. If you see here that more of them designated the Democratic Party at 55% over the 45%. And that means that they're obviously leaving out the other parties such as Greens and so forth, because this adds to 100. Otherwise it wouldn't. But if we just consider these two parties, which is one way to do it, that's completely legitimate, then you would say here, okay, in this case, what are we predicting based on just the straight party voters? We're predicting that the Democrat will win by 55 to 45. Okay? Then he's saying over here that in the individual candidate voters, the people that didn't vote with that straight party designation and then voted themselves, in this case, there's no two things to possibly add up. You only get one possible vote here. In this one here, you could possibly vote straight party and vote again and get yourself in voting for not just the Republican, but also for the candidate. The people that did not designate straight party voting, and we don't actually have that. We don't know how many people did not designate straight party and voted. What we do know is how many voted straight party, and we do know the total of the people that voted. We don't know the people that did not vote straight party and voted. It just does not show up that way in the data. So there is a little bit of a little bit of a wrinkle there that they're not explaining, but we'll go along with what they're doing for now. So what we're saying here is that in the 1,000 individual candidate voters, they're saying, well, how did it turn out for those people who actually voted on their own? How does that compare with the people who voted with the straight party? And they're saying, gee, there was fewer Trump vote percentage-wise compared to the people that voted for Biden in the non-straight party designated ballots. And therefore, we're concerned because it went down by 20%. And they're saying, gee, this went down consistently by 20%. Not consistently, but in this kind of a linear fashion. And so we're very, very concerned, they're saying. Of course, you add up the votes, as they say down here, 700 plus 1,300 makes the 2,000. However, you would not be able to do that. In other words, the 700 that they're getting is 250 plus 450. You can't actually add these up like that. Because if they were straight party voters, you don't actually know if they, maybe they voted for Trump, maybe not. Okay, so you could have a straight party voter that voted Democratic for Biden and still designated that they're voting straight party for Republican. Then the Biden vote would show up in the total. So you can't really add these up, but we'll go along. As I said, it's a wrinkle in their analysis, but it's something that's probably not, it's sort of minor compared to the other problems. So we have, if you were able to add these up, then you had 700 votes for Trump and 1,300 for Biden, and then you'd have this 35-65. So I agree with that if you could add them up, even though you can't. So now we're going on. We're saying that this number here, 20% down, and he's saying it's consistently at this angle, and some are up here where the people who came in voted more strongly for Trump compared to the Democrats voting for Biden that came in. But there's a lot of cases they're saying where the ones for Trump did not show up, or they did not balance out so much with the ones that came in. Now, how does that actually look in the real data? First of all, where did I get the data? Let me tell you that. I went directly to the website, which is the Michigan, that is the clerk at the Oakland County. And very quickly, we can take a look at here of, by looking at Turnout, for people who aren't familiar with this area, this is right above Detroit, and this square area that they use a lot in Michigan for their counties. And this is you know, outside the, you know, this is outside the main downtown area of Detroit, kind of a bedroom community, if you will, a little bit higher end, and as you see here in the results, dominating in this contest by the Democratic Party and for Joe Biden. So we had in the straight party vote, we had a lot of straight party voters compared to for Democrats versus Republicans, about 50,000 more. And then down here you see that, again, Biden beat Trump by an even wider margin. So they're saying that maybe because people who came in, maybe there was too many who came in after and voted independently, and so maybe those should have gone to Trump instead. That's kind of their concept. So if you go over here, though, you can get the detailed Excel spreadsheet, and that's the ones to get. There's a couple of them. You have to get the one for the straight party and the one for the actual candidates in order to blend them together. And this is where I think they actually made their mistake. I think they blended them together and they used the wrong order of the columns. So now that you've seen that, let's go back to the spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you the columns that I have here. So we have the precincts over here on the side. We don't really care what the names are of those precincts, so I'm going to shrink those down. And then we have a number of registered voters in each precinct. We don't really care about that. We have then, mostly we're looking at the total votes for Biden versus the total votes for Trump. That's one important column. And then we're also going to be looking at the straight party line votes for both the Democrats and Republicans. So this is the people who designated straight party line. It does not mean they did not go on and make other selections. But what was the percentage of people who did that for each one of the parties? That's one of the things that they look at, is that ratio. The other one is the number of non-straight party line voters for either Biden or Trump. Now, to get to the non-straight party votes for Biden, this is something that we don't actually have in this thing. This doesn't say in this ballot, these were the straight non-party. What we have to do there is take the you can see here E7, which is the total votes for, say, Biden, and we subtract the ones that were on the straight, or the number of votes of people who voted straight party line. So if you have the total number of votes for Biden and you subtract the straight party line votes, it doesn't necessarily make this number, because some people who voted straight party line may have voted for somebody else. And so you can't necessarily subtract. However, they make the same, this is the issue that they also don't worry about, so we're not going to worry about either. We're going to go along with their numbers. I'm just pointing out that you can't actually do it this way, but it's going to be close enough. So we have the non-straight party line votes for both Biden and Trump. So these are the other two numbers that we're interested in order to make their calculation. Then we're going to go over here and we're going to take a look at the percentage for Trump for any given precinct. This is, of course, if you take 100 minus this would be the amount for Biden if you subtract that from 100. So this is only considering Trump and Biden, not the other minor candidates. And this is ranked according to this number, sorted in descending order, and then this is the ranked number. So this is ranked by basically Trump going down and Biden going up, okay, during that. Now here is the percentage of the Republican and the straight party line only. So if we're considering just the straight party line votes, what is the percentage of those that are the Republicans? That means we're just considering these two numbers, and we're saying what is the percentage of 326 of the total of 226 and 326? 60%. Okay, that's that number. Now we have the next one is what is the percentage of the non-straight party, that means the independent vote, that voted for Trump? People that did not designate any party, straight line party, and how many of those voted for Trump in this precinct? And you can see in this case it's 78%. So those people that came in, the straight party line was predicting 60%. People that came in actually voted 78% for Trump. Okay? And now the claim was that in many cases this number was lower than that number. And actually in only 3 cases and this is the difference. So this column, next column here is the difference between 78 and 59. So the ones that came in versus the ones that were predicted. Let's go back and review what they wanted. They wanted, in this subtraction, 25%. That's the number that came in, the individual candidate, and by coming in, I mean they voted independently and they did not. This has nothing to do with coming in versus mail. I'm so sorry. So this is not coming in. This has to do with whether they're individually, they did not mark straight party line. The non-straight party line votes, 25%. That's this minus the straight party line vote percentage between, so it's what's predicted by straight party line, and how does that compare with the prediction of the ones who did not vote straight party line. That's the comparison that they're making. And that's these columns. This is the subtraction that they're doing. 21.90 is, I'm going to be very, very clear, it's T13. The percentage of Trump, non-straight party line, 74, minus 52. We get that. In no case does this ever go negative except for, I think, 3 cases. 1, 2, 3. It's always positive. Meaning that the people who did not designate straight party line voted more often for Trump than was predicted by the straight party line vote. Not what they're saying here. And when you go down to my plot of this number across the Trump rank from the most, the precincts that most heavily voted for Trump down to the ones that most heavily voted for Biden, this is the difference of the non-straight party voter, independent voter. What is the percentage of the vote that went for Trump and not for Biden? And it's always positive except for 3 times. This is not the plot that they provided. And therefore, I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, the only thing I can think is that they actually made a mistake and they put in some numbers. It would be easy to do, because what you have to do is when you put these in, you have to make sure that these precincts are sorted by name. And then when you put the numbers in, you're getting the precincts lined up. If you didn't do that, you could very easily get the columns mixed up and not corresponding. And then you would get essentially this plot right here, but at an angle, because you're not comparing apples to apples. I looked at a couple of other things too, which I usually do look at, and this plot is kind of hard to explain, but this is the distribution histogram of the prevalence of the balance of power, if you will, within the precincts. So that these precincts up here are very heavily Trump-oriented precincts. They vote heavily for Trump. And these precincts down here vote heavily for Biden. Just looking at the blue, which is the overall vote, we have a bump up here of pretty heavy, Trump areas. And they voted heavily for Trump. And then you kind of have a middle bump, which are kind of even, Trump versus Biden. It's a good mixture of the community. And then you have these down here, very large, very more offset, where you have some that really don't like Trump at all. Way down here towards there, you don't have any up here where you have precincts that don't like Biden at all. The Biden is well liked, even way down, and even though no Trump voters are there. But up here, there isn't any that are dominated completely more than 75% by Trump voters. You still have 25% Biden voters. So the Biden voters are mixed in more, and the Trump voters are kind of isolated in a way. Well, I wouldn't say that. There's the Biden voters are mixed into the Trump precincts, but the Biden precincts are sometimes very, very heavily Biden. Okay. Now the red is of the straight party, and the same kind of distribution, like of the people who vote for straight party. You can see that there's more predominance amongst the Democrats, the people that like Biden, that vote straight party, than for the ones that vote for Trump. Trump tends to be not a straight party voting group, and the Biden people tend to be more straight party voting. As you can see, they're higher down here. That's what that means. Now this one is, what is the additional Trump votes over the straight party Republican votes? So this would be, did people, how many votes did they get over that? And you can see there's a percentage here over the straight party, kind of even amongst all of them. There's a few spikes here and there, but it's pretty even throughout all of them. This is kind of interesting, where we're looking at the additional non-straight party vote by Trump rank. So if you just look at Trump, the red, this is high ranking, meaning very Trump rated, and you can see that the independent vote, super strong, and the independent vote, not strong at all in the Biden areas. They just not there. Whereas look at the Biden, we have very not super strong. Well, it's reasonably kind of flat all the way through. In other words, the people that came and voted for Biden and did not use a straight party option, whether they voted, no matter how they voted, I say came, I mean vote by mail or walk in, they mostly pretty much evenly over all the precincts had about the same number of votes over the straight party. So it wasn't like they feel like it is this sort of a slant here that you see with the Republicans. But this is not an indication of any kind of fraud. This just has to do with psychology of voters. And then finally, I'll skip that one because I don't think it's very good. But this one here is really the crux of what they're saying, and I think they're off base. So my challenge to SHIVA and also Bennie Smith, who was involved in the video, is to explain how you got your numbers. I want to see the data because I don't see it. Again, this is Ray Lutz with Citizens Oversight. We're doing a lot of oversight of this election and have been for the last 15 years. We have a new thing now called Audit Engine, which is going to be able to take the ballot images from any county really and process them independently and come up with an independent tabulation. We hope this is going to really improve the reliability of our elections. But I have to say, I think the reliability has gone up a lot. We've had a lot of turnover of equipment, upgrades, and I think the hand-marked paper ballots is a big help because they do provide a good audit trail. Citizensoversight.org, and you can check out Audit Engine at auditengine.org. And also another initiative is called CrowdWatch, where we're helping people observe find places to observe and to effectively observe the elections in their government. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.